Without further delay, I'm going to introduce you to our panelists. Our first panelist is Stephen Goldfarb. Stephen is a particle physicist from the University of Melbourne who's working on the ATLAS experiment on the LHC. He's co-chairing the International Particle Physics Outreach Group and participates on the advisory board for QuarkNet. In the past, Stephen's already given TED Talks, talks for iChap and other renowned events. And as you know, also a talk for our pre-hack program. Nice to have you here, Stephen. Hi.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Our second panelist is Daniela Antonio. She's a communication marketing professional working for CERN's Industry Procurement and Technology Transfer Department. She's editor-in-chief of Accelerating News, an online publication that highlights news and results from the biggest accelerator research and development projects. Nice to have you here.
Hello, everyone.
Our next speaker or panelist is Loic Bommersbach. He's CERN's social media manager, and so he's responsible for CERN's main social media channels on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And as one can tell from his private Twitter account, he's also a big space and astronomy enthusiast. Hi, Loic.
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me today.
And last but not least, our fourth speaker is Andrew Purcell. He's the communications officer at CERN Open Lab. And CERN Open Lab is the public-private partnership, how to say that, office at CERN who facilitates the ICT research with CERN and its industry partners and research partners. Hi, Andrew. Nice to meet you.
Hi, everybody. Great to be here. Pleased to meet you all.
Know you personally quite well, Andrew. We are aware that you're making a big sacrifice at this moment because you're a big fan of Formula One, and Lewis Hamilton is about to cling his record-equaling title. So this is dedication to SciComm. Nice to have you here, Andrew.
Thank you. It's been recorded.
Okay, so don't tell Andrew the results of the race. Okay, so this was the brief introduction of the panelists. So let's get right into the panel discussion. And here, as a follow-up to this short introduction of our panelists, the first question would be to each of you: how did you guys get into SciComm? What was your journey, and what is your background? And maybe again here we start with Stephen. Stephen, what was your journey into SciComm?
My journey was not a direct one. As you know, I'm a particle physicist and I do research on the ATLAS experiment. I would say that I fell into it. We needed people to explain when the LHC started up what was going on, and that we weren't going to destroy the world. And if we were, people shouldn't worry about it. It'd be the end of the world. So we needed people who could talk and describe things to journalists and to the public. And I managed to be able to complete sentences. So it wasn't a very high criteria. Since then, I really fell into it. I really, really enjoy it. I was asked to coordinate the outreach program for ATLAS, which is an elected position. We can do that for a couple terms, for about 4 years. And after that, I've stuck around doing that and got asked to chair the International Particle Physics Outreach Group. And that I'm happily doing along with my co-chair, Pedro Abreu, and it's a lot of fun. I'd say I probably do much more education and outreach. That means reaching out to young people in classrooms and organizing that. But I also, as you mentioned, like to do public talks and have created a TED Ed animation and given several TEDx talks. And it's fun.
Awesome. And you are like a physicist from university by education, so you didn't study science communication or anything like that?
No, I did not, and I'm always learning. So I've had some very, very patient science communicators helping me out and teaching the basics, I would say.
Great. Daniela, how did you get into SciComm?
So a bit like Stephen, it was not a direct one. My background is in cell and molecular biology, but I changed into science communication quite early. because I did a brief time in the lab and it was not quite what I expected. So I decided to take a break, get some work experience. And that's when I started working for a communication consultancy agency that specialized in communication for pharmaceutical companies. So that's why I was there as a biologist. And I liked it so much that I continued in communication up until now. At a certain moment, I started directing myself towards research labs and public research institutions. And that's how I ended up at CERN.
Now, since you're editor-in-chief of the Accelerating News, you're also like coming more from a science journalism corner of the whole spectrum. Is that correct?
Yeah, and also, but that's a very good point, because a bit like Steve, I need to rely on these amazing scientists that we have at CERN to tell me what I need to know, because this is not my background. So I'm always learning every day, doing what I do. It's a learning journey, and at the same time, you also need to keep up with the trends in science communication, in how to do your job in the best possible way. So yeah, it's very stimulating.
Awesome. Now, Loic, you're also coming from you're working in a different realm of science communication. That is the social media, science communication in social media. Can you tell us how you got there?
Sure. In fact, I started my journal as science communicator 17 years ago, in 2003, as a science facilitator in a science center, in fact, and in parallel with my studies in physics. So I like it so much to be in the interface between general public, different type of audiences, and scientists. So I try, after my Bachelor of Physics, I moved 100% to SciComm with a master's degree. And I've been recruited by CNRS, which is the French science agency, in fact, in Paris. And step by step, I had a huge interest of, as you said, astronomy and astrophysics, and also social media. So at first, I've been recruited to deal with the astrophysics news for CNRS, and then step by step, I moved 100% to social media at CNRS first, 2014. And now at CERN, I've been recruited 2 years ago to amplify the message and fight the trolls on this on social media, as you probably know. So this is my my daily work, and we have so much to do at CERN, you can imagine. And we try to deal with the new feature, the new format we have on social media. For example, this week, we've been into the antimatter factory with Samid over an Instagram live for 20 minutes. It was amazing. People asked so many questions, and this is real pleasure to try to find an answer, to find someone can answer to this question. So there's so much to do with social media. We'll be happy to give you more inputs later.
Thanks. Awesome. And again, last but not least, Andrew, you're working at CERN Open Lab, doing science communication with the wider public, reporting about CERN's ICT projects, but also you're liaising with the industry partners of CERN, so science communication with industry partners. How did you get to that post?
Okay, so like Daniela, my background is in life sciences. So I was a biologist modeling ecosystems and their responses to climate change. And yeah, after a short while of doing that, I started to think about how I could make the most impact on society, or how I could try to make the most impact on society. And I felt that while obviously there's lots of research still to be done in that field, a lot of the most important battles to be fought are, essentially political ones, communicating to convince people of the need to change actions and think about things in different ways. So I became really inspired by this and decided I was going to go and do a master's degree in science communication. And since then, I've been working for about a decade as a science communicator. At that same time, it was a time 2007, 2008, when it was just after so it was 2010 then, so it was just after the 2008 financial crisis. So there was lots of talk, particularly in the UK, about austerity measures and how this would affect funding for science projects. And that was something that got me really excited, trying to campaign and communicate to convince people of the importance of funding fundamental science. So I worked at New Scientist magazine on the news desk for a while there, also freelanced for a few places like Climate Action, and came to CERN in 2012. I was editor-in-chief of a publication that's now known as the Science Node, which is communicating about all different kinds of science that are made possible by ICT infrastructures. And then since 2015, I've been working, as Hans mentioned, with CERN Open Lab as the lead communications officer on that project.
Thanks, Andrew. So as our audience can see, there are many ways on how to get engaged and involved into science communication. Following up on this, what do you panelists think are some of the major or core qualifications and skills someone should bring to the table, or at least aim to acquire when he wants to become a science communicator?
Sure, maybe I can go first on this one. I mean, I think this applies to many fields, of course, but you know, a desire to learn is really important, to always be learning new things. That's particularly true when one is working in more of a journalistic environment, but also in the kind of environment that I'm working in now. You know, it's a privilege to be able to learn new things every day, sort of get a free education in particle physics over the last decade. It's fantastic. And, you know, people talk sometimes about T-shaped people, you know, having a deep set of expertise in one area, and that's really important for some jobs. And then having this sort of broad knowledge across the top, which allows you to calibrate, you know, that your knowledge in the area in which you have expertise. But I think, you know, a lot of science communicators, can't speak for everyone, but, you know, sort of jack of all trades, having quite a broad thing across the top, being interested in lots of areas and being keen to jump from one thing to the next is really, really important for this kind of role, at least in my opinion.
Maybe I can build a bit on that, because I think you mentioned, Andrew, the desire to learn. And one note that I had here is ask the right questions, because it's like you said, we have so many different, and you guys just saw, we have so many different backgrounds, we have different experiences, and yet we are all working in science communication. So really the question is, how do you make yourself able to do the job? Is really, you need to figure out where you need to learn a bit more and then go that way. But also when, you know, basically, I think, feel free to comment on this, but I think the nature of the role is to translate really complex concepts into concepts that everyone can understand, or that your target audiences can understand. And to do that, it's really about asking questions from that audience perspective and what would they feel the need to know. And that's what I do a lot in Accelerating News. I try to, even though I know that my audience is a bit technical, they cannot be a technical person in all the subjects. So I always try to have a bit of an explanation on the side as well. So I think it's really about, you know, asking questions, like being curious, like Andrew was saying. But then, you know, I also I would like really to comment on what you said about being a jack of all trades, because I think that is also common to people who are working in other communication areas. You have to have a bit of everything. Like you have to have a bit of event organization, a bit of writing, a bit of social media, and in organizations like CERN, I feel that you can specialize yourself a bit and go in a certain direction, because you have a really excellent team supporting you in different areas. So I don't know if I will pass on the mic to Loic about that.
Yes, absolutely. One thing I learned, in fact, for SciComm, it's very important to know your audiences, the people you try to reach. For example, when we try to post something on Facebook, for example, I always try, as a big science fan, I always try to make sure that the content we're gonna share gonna interest me at first, and maybe some friends around, to make sure that we reach the correct audience. And one of the things I wanted to highlight is the ability of balancing the things that people try to know For example, as a science facilitator years ago, I've dealt with a nanotechnology exhibition. So you can see this topic is quite sensitive, you know. There's pro and cons. When pro people came into the exhibit, and I try to tell them, oh, you sure you want to have a chip behind your skin, and someone is watching your medical levels all the time. And at the opposite, on the other end, when it was someone against this technology, I said, yeah, maybe you could have an interest in your daily life, you know, to save life. I don't know, to improve the quality of life. So it's always knowing the audience and try to balance to make sure that you understand correctly what they said, and having the ability to balance the knowledge behind. So
maybe I should, I can add from a different perspective. I mean, I think the experts here have spoken, and they're absolutely right. I mean, I am not a professional science communicator, but I've slowly have learned over the years that exactly what Loic just said here, knowing your audience is essential. From a scientist point of view, physicists were horrible people in that we always assume we know everything. So it took some time, of course, for me to learn that I didn't know anything about science communication, that it's a science. It is something that you have to study and you have to learn, and I'm always learning that. So maybe I know the particle physics fairly well, although that's evolving too. But learning about communication, and the one lesson, I mean, that I've learned, what all three of you have said, is to really, you know, understand and be inquisitive and understand your audience, because and that means really getting into their shoes. I remember I was very much impressed. I was early on, became an outreach coordinator, and I went to this science communication forum, which was in Brussels, or I think it was. And I was amazed to see these people talking about communication. And at the time, social media was relatively new. Twitter was relatively new. And the one thing that they mentioned that resonated, that I was able to understand, that resonated, was that you need to spend a lot of time watching, reading, seeing what people are talking about, much more than what you put out. Of course, putting out content is important, but see what people are talking about and be in tune with that, knowing your audience. So I can only underline what the experts have just said.
Just to pick up on that, could I give like a practical bit of advice? There's a really good article in the Guardian newspaper by Tim Radford, who used to be their science journalist. Now, obviously, it's written from the perspective of science journalist rather than science communicator, but it's his 25 commandments for this. And, you know, it's all talking about meeting a person, never meeting your reader, but always having to really put yourself in those person's shoes. You know, one of the other commandments is that no one's ever going to complain because you made something too easy to understand. And it really, you know, underlines all the things that Steve was saying just now. I encourage you to take a look at that. It's Tim Radford in The Guardian.
Share the link at some point, Andrew.
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat.
Thank you very much.
So knowing your audience is one of the key aspects of science communication. But knowing your audience is one thing. How do you guys spark kind of interest in, say, particle physics? What are your methods in doing so? Do you have any advice for audience how to get people interested, how to kindle their?
Maybe I can give. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Daniela. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, but I think you all can expand on this, that it's really about, and I love this expression, it's meeting your audience at eye level, meaning going into what is their context and try to make a connection between that and between the topic that you are trying to communicate. So that's one thing that I really follow, and I really recommend that you think about, where is your audience coming from? And I would love to hear the other panelists comment on this, but I feel it has worked for everything, and I have not yet found a case where this maxim does not apply.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Be in tune with them. I have this advantage. I make music as well, and I can see what I've learned to sort of read an audience, read the crowd, and see when they like what we're doing and when they don't. But I would say the other thing is we have this huge advantage, and that's that science is in everyone. People are born interested in science. They're scientists from birth. They look and they observe and they try to understand the world around them. Everyone has that. You just need to reawaken that, because it got killed sometime in school when they were learning algebra, and there was a disconnect. I feel that people went to school, and you know, it's not teachers' faults, because you know, teachers have to teach these huge classrooms and they have to make everybody learn the same thing at the same time. Our education systems are not great, but it should be a game and it should be fun. And so I think we just have to reach in there and find that bit of those people, that bit that loves science, because it has to be. We use this to survive, right? Science is part of humanity, and so we know it's there. Just remind them of it, you know.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
maybe I could just pick up on that point really quickly. There's a famous essay, I think it was originally given as a speech by someone called C.P. Snow at Cambridge University in 1959. It's called The Two Cultures. I think many of you will have heard of it. And I think that's a really interesting point that Steve makes there, because you know, I'm someone that firmly believes that science is part of culture. And one of the main reasons that I want to do science communication is that I want science to be seen as part of culture, not a thing that is separate from it. And I think that's a battle that, particularly over the last 5 to 10 years, I think we've seen some really good progress on that front.
If I can add, I completely agree with what you said until now. Then it depends also how much time you have. So I found sometimes it happens to me to guide the tours at CERN, and okay, you have 40 minutes to catch your audience. So as it was already said before by Daniela, for example, okay, you should first you have to know your audience. So maybe you do a very nice, I don't know, joking survey, and then you already know the level and where you have to go to act. And then I would like to relate with Stephen. He said that sometimes most of the time, science is killed at school. And so you meet in particular students that they say, okay, I'm here because my teacher brought me here. And in any case, it's an outdoor event. I will go, but I'm not interested at all to discover what I have to look. And I think okay, it's not difficult, but it takes energy to talk individually to each person in the audience. So look in the eyes and really going, spanning in the audience and give a message continuously to each one of them, and looking how they are moving, if they are bored, so waking up them.
Yeah.
So it's really something very dynamic that, of course, experience can help. Experience can help.
Yeah.
And usually, I finish. What I see, it's quite, at least for me, that I start maybe with very suspicious audiences. And then at a certain point after let's say the introductory conference, and then you bring them looking something, at the end, they are applauding you, they are thanking you, and they say, I discovered something. And the teachers in particular, they are saying, so you made again, you rebuilt a bridge between me and maybe the subject I'm teaching at school. So it takes energy, but it's one, for me, it's a point-to-point connection. Even if you are one and you have multiple audiences, you should think, in my opinion, I'm thinking always that I have only one person in front of me, but then I have 30, I have 60, you know, this is my technique.
So I was going to say exactly that about the visits, because I have guided visits as well. And you get this point where so you said it takes energy, and it's true, it takes a lot of your energy, but for me at least it's also energizing, because
Yes, exactly.
the way I feel
Yeah.
after, it's really good.
Yeah.
And I think so. I've had this situation several times in the visits that I guided, where suddenly these students, these kids were really excited about what we were talking about, and they were very standoffish in the beginning, and that's why I like to guide visits in the ESC, so the synchrocyclotron, because it's like you show a bit of how it started, and they get excited, I get excited, the teacher gets excited, and you have that amazing video as well there. So it's really a fantastic experience, and you really build this energy together. And well, I don't say anything very complicated, right? I don't explain the science of it, but
No,
just
of
the fact
course.
that they are here and they see themselves in the institution, and they see themselves in this place where you do particle physics, it's already, a step in the door for them in science. And I think that that's also about how you see as an agent, how you see yourself as an agent of science. And that's why the visits are really important.
Yeah,
If they are done by professionals, by researchers.
I think people who are not well, for sure you need to know your subject, but I
It's
think
not
even
a
if you
matter to know, sorry, is that you live your subject is something different.
that
When you have to,
okay, yeah,
the enthusiasm, because if I'm a professional guide describing, I don't know,
I agree, yeah.
Lemon Lake, I cannot be so enthusiastic as if I'm talking about physics, because physics is a part of my life,
Yeah. And I also think this is very interesting, because if you
Sorry,
think of
guys.
your
Sorry to interrupt.
I will stop.
Sorry. I mute myself.
No problem. Thank you very much for your input, Sonja. It really added up nicely to what has been said before. But we still have like a question we want to address, and it's already half. And this is something, Daniela, you already mentioned that as a science communicator, you need a lot of skills from other various, let's say, domains such as event management, or even social media. And this is something that interests me, and certainly also our audience, that is, how important is social media for a science communicator? So how important are social media skills, but also maybe how important is one's own profile and its makeup regarding SciComm topics? And I mean, this question is perfect for Loic, so maybe you can take it as first, Loic.
Yes, thank you. And in fact, yeah, for me, it's 100% important. But I would say that social media, it's of course, social media are getting so many massive important in our SciComm daily life and mission we can have on this platform. But I think social media just the continues the prolongation, the thing from the real life you can have to another world. So of course it's important, but it's also important to be a good SciComm people at the beginning. Social media will be something else. But with 2020 and the pandemic, in fact, you have been getting so much importance that we expect. So we try to know the rules and the good practice on this platform, and to address things like that. For example, we can have at CERN, we can have some training for directorate for scientists. Maybe Steve, you can participate into it in 2021. We'd like to give more background ID, good practice, to make sure that people don't fall into this discussion with conspiracy theorists or trolls. So voilà, to give them some weapons on this platform. But yes, it's definitely important.
So yeah, Stephen, you already mentioned earlier that it's important to address young people, and I guess social media is key in that perspective, since everyone by the age of 15 has got already a smartphone, is using the social media platforms. So what are good practices to reach people on social media, especially like the younger people?
You know, I'm one of those guys, these old guys who I don't have a pointed thumb. You know, someone like Loic, they can type in like that, and the whole message done. It takes me half a day to put something out there. But you know, I wouldn't say I'm the expert for this, because if you look at my social media accounts, you'll see I mix everything. I'm from early on. I didn't separate my science life from my political life, from this life and that. I did a lot of things wrong, and I've left it that way because I'm old and lazy. But I think in a sense, sometimes that helps because I'm just out there. And so I'm a human being, and I put out my opinions, and I listen. I spend a lot of time listening to others. I do have other persona because I have to run, you know, I help to build up Atlas's social media. I help to build up IPOG's social media. And so I do try to listen in and do those specific things there. But, you know, I would listen more to Loic and others on their expertise, because I'm not trained in it. I do everything wrong. But you know, I think it's, as we said before, you know, you need to be listening to what they're talking about. You need to be in tune with them.
Yeah, it's a back and forth. It's not just you like shouting out into the world. It's also like to see what's coming back, of course.
Maybe I can come in on that point too. You know, this is for me probably the most important thing. It's this idea of direct feedback. You know, we've talked about different ways in which you can transmit information, but it's also important to receive that and constantly use that to adapt and sort of iteratively improve all future communications. But not just that, you know, social media is also great for anyone that's thinking about getting into science communication, or for that basically any other field, to follow and meet and discuss with lots of other professionals working in that area. So it's a great way to learn, to discover new resources, and you know, it's not just social media, but you know, you compare to an age when someone would write a physical newsletter, or you know, a piece of news in a daily newspaper or weekly magazine, and it would be published. And well, okay, you can see the publication circulation statistics, but it's very different if you publish a news article on a website and you see how well that's done. You know, you see that so many thousand or tens of thousands of people have read that. Now, of course, that can have some negative side effects too, but it is certainly useful information for us all to have.
Can I make a quick comment? Because I just want to show, just to give an idea of how we can get frustrated or not by this. You know, we had social media when there was the Higgs discovery, and of course we used it quite a bit. We were trending. I think our top, you know, we had Higgs boson, LHC, CERN, standard model trending at that time, but also we had Comic Sans trending. I don't know if that was about, because Fabiola's beautiful slides were all in Comic Sans. It's brought up a huge discussion in the people who do graphic design. But the biggest, most popular tweet we ever had so far, well, there might have been some since, was simply a selfie that Will.i.am took of this view that you see behind me of the detector. So I think it is important also that we partner with these people who have huge followings and who also really love science, because, you know, however much Steve types into social media, I'm not going to get a following like someone who's in pop culture and who's out there. So we should, you know, partner as much as we possibly can and get them to say good things. Even a very popular representative from the US AOC, Alessandra Ocasio-Cortez, partnered with people in Twitch and other social media to get messages out, and that helped.
Yeah, I mean, the social media topic is a big topic, and I think we could linger on that for ages.
Yes.
But we have one last question. And that is, what resources or opportunities are available in your institute, that is CERN, or any other collaborating institutes of CERN, or institutes you could think of, that budding science communicators could look into, or people interested in science communication?
Well, maybe I could start. In terms, there are several things here. There is, if you want formal education, there is there are places where you can find it. If you want to have to find a job in science communication, there's also ways to find it. And then there are the activities that you do where you just want to dab a bit in science communication. I think the word you used was budding science communicators. And when I started like that. I volunteered for certain activities that, for example, I think one that I'm talking with now and participating is native scientists and letters to scientists. So it's letters to scientists. It's a Portuguese activity, but it's just you exchange letters with students who are interested in knowing about you as a scientist. So there are these activities that you can do if you are just starting, and then when you get the taste, maybe you can, start trying to direct your career towards towards this area. So, and I can continue talking about other activities that I know, but this is just find these little things that are not very time consuming, so that you can get started and try and see how it works for you.
Starting with baby steps, basically.
Yeah, if you are interested in the area, then maybe that's a good way to start.
Andrew, do you have any tips for our audience, or
Sure, yeah. So this is perhaps a somewhat UK-centric tip, but I think it is the biggest list of its kind in Europe. But there's the PSCI.com, PSCI-com with a double M mailing list, and I encourage you to follow that, because there you can find information about science communication social events run on an almost weekly basis now, communal working for people in science communication, so you can all sit down together apart and work on science communication. There you'll find lots of information for talks, discussion events such as these. Also, possibilities for masterclasses. Equally, again, in the UK, this is another kind of, UK. I've just seen the comment about the link. I'll share the link in a moment. So, for example, the Science Media Centre in the UK runs sort of statistical literacy courses, which is something we didn't get to touch on before, but in terms of practical skills, I do think statistical literacy is really, really important for science communication. So you'll find all of that on this list, as well as lots of job adverts as well. So I'll share that link in just one moment.
On that side, you can rely, in fact, having a digital presence online. It's definitely something you need to have a solid LinkedIn profile. And to look into new opportunity on LinkedIn. There are pretty much more and more society or public organizations such as CERN are putting that job position offer on this platform. So you need to have, definitely to improve your LinkedIn profile. There is few courses online for social media to make sure that we understand the aim of the thing, because it will be something people gonna have a look on your resume if you apply for a job. Do you know how to handle an Instagram account, for example? So I can give some link for free online courses. I didn't try them all, but some of them are good. So if you want, I can share it with you as well. So
I want, if I can.
Yeah, Andrew just posted the mailing list he was talking about in the chat, and Stephen added an education and outreach material. So I have a look into those materials, and if you have any further questions, we would move to our breakout rooms now, where you can address our panelists individually with a focused Q&A. So what we're going to do is we'll open up 4 different breakout rooms in which each of our panelists will be waiting. So one of them, of course. And after 10 minutes, you switch to another breakout room to have the chance to talk to a second panelist. I guess Samid, you're going to open the breakout rooms.
Yes,
soon.
I'll just do that in about 30 seconds.
Perfect. So let me thank you all your panelists in the audience for participating. It was a really fruitful talk, and got some really nice insights into science communication and the career path someone can take, and people of you took. And yeah, I guess I see some of you in the breakout rooms in a few seconds. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.